Welcome to Montessori 101, a live show from Child of the Redwoods, all about the magic of Montessori. We believe that every child deserves a Montessori education. I'm Aubrey Hargis.
And I'm David Hargis. So whether you're joining us live, hello out there, or maybe you're watching the replay, maybe you're listening to this as a podcast, doesn't matter. We're just happy that you are with us. And if you want to know more about our work, head over to our website, childoftheredwoods.com. And I see we already have someone in the comments. Hello, Marika.
Hi, Marika. She says, excited for this chat. It's always refreshing to get pointers on finding our calm. And she is correct. Today we are talking about finding our calm. Yes. So this is not only peace education, although we will talk about that towards the end of this discussion, but also about embodying that peaceful mindset as we are with our children in their daily lives.
That's right.
And not just with our children. The most important thing is, yes, we're helping our children to find their calm, but we cannot do that unless we also find our calm.
That's right.
And guess what? Montessori actually can help us do that.
That's right. It's a holistic.
Yes, it is.
For everybody. You ready to jump into this?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we're also going to be spotlighting one of our members. Her name is Shweta. She is a mom of one in India. And she is a doctor by profession working at a pharmaceutical company. Mm-hmm. She's also an alumni of our primary program. Mm-hmm. That's our foundation course for ages 2 to 5. And
2, 3, 4, and 5.
Toddler to kindergarten. That's right. Where we teach you how to teach your toddler through kindergartner. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I love about our community is that it's so international. Shweta is not the only person from India
in
our program. We have I think it's every continent except for Antarctica is represented in our community. 106 countries, something like that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I love it. Every background, every kind of, what do you think that is? What is it about Montessori that makes it so international?
I was going to say, it's not just that Child of the Redwoods is able to reach all over the earth. It's really Montessori education. There's just an interest everywhere, all over the place. This is by design from Maria Montessori herself. She lived in Italy, mm-hmm. when she was developing the method, but she was really certain that she didn't want it to stay in Italy. Yeah. She really made a lot of outreach to go to different countries and share her knowledge. She actually had teachers all over the world who were trained with her, and then they would go out to their own countries and teach Montessori in their languages, to other teachers who would then teach the children in those languages. Yep. So from the very beginning, I would say it became an international effort right away, right as soon as she completed the first year of the Casa dei Bambini. She started making this big outreach. There was a big outreach that she came and actually did personal training here in the United States, in Los Angeles. And she also went to India and
here in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah. And here in San Francisco as well. Yeah. And all over the world, Spain. I mean, she was all over the place. She spent so much of her life just hopping on planes and traveling. Mm-hmm. And it was a very tiring type of thing to do, I imagine, is probably anybody who travels a lot in the corporate world.
But I think she had boundless energy, right?
She did. So much energy and just so much, mission, focus, for spreading the love of children and the way we can follow children. And she wanted it to be an effort that reached families, no matter what religion they were or lack of
cultural background, nationality, whatever,
all socioeconomic levels. I mean, she really felt like it should be accessible to everyone. Totally. So it was very, very cool. She actually, because Shweta is from India, it's important to note that Maria Montessori did spend quite a bit of time in India.
That's right.
Many years, almost a decade, right?
But she went into exile during World War II,
right?
And spent that time in India, basically trying to escape Mussolini.
Yes. Now, the genius is during that time, and Mario was with her often.
Her son.
That was when they started working on the Montessori elementary curriculum together. And so those of you who are wondering how lower elementary came to be, it was actually in India that she and Mario and the teachers who were there help to develop it. So
right.
very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There's like 60,000 Montessori schools in the world today.
That is the closest estimate that we
Yeah.
have.
So it's truly amazing. And like you said, it's not something that's unique to Child of the Redwoods. It's about the Montessori method and Montessori herself. It's such an international thing. But of course, we're really excited because we have a community as a part of our programs. Any program that you join, whether it's Constellation, our thematic learning program, or it's our foundation courses, primary or lower elementary, it always includes community because we want people to get together and meet. And it's just really neat to see them all in there. And if you're interested in being part of a community like that, or maybe that specific community, you can head over to our website and learn. We're actually enrolling now for our fall starts.
Yes, for our foundation courses,
that's right.
Both primary and lower elementary.
So head on over there.
Just so you guys know, we're getting lots of emails that are coming in, queries about asking if which program might be the right one for them. Yeah. So if you're kind of on the fence, or if you are in that situation yourself, don't feel like you have to be alone in making that decision. Like, reach out and we will help guide you to where you need to be.
Yeah, totally. We're really genuinely interested in making sure that you have the right thing for your family, whether that's at home or not at home or whatever it is. We just want you to have the best experience, and children have the best experience. So that's always reach out and ask questions.
Well, something that I've been thinking about in terms of finding the calm is that at the time of this interview, Shweta actually had a 2.5-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a little while, so that
the
child is probably
terrible twos.
Yes. The child has probably grown up a little bit. They're probably in a different stage of life. But Shweta actually credits a lot of, the way she's able to deal with the trials of toddlerhood with the Montessori method. We know how challenging that time of life can be. Toddlers are in that stage where they're just not as capable as older kids, but they want to be. They see us doing cool stuff like putting on our own coats and our own shoes and unlocking the door to go outside whenever we seem to feel like it. And they have this sudden awareness that, I could do that thing too.
Because now they can't. They're not crawling around anymore. They're actually up. They can reach things. They have much more, dexterity in their hands and body. And so they can unlock things if they try.
They can often. But
as any parent will tell you.
Sometimes, yes, I know. Our own toddler ran out the front door one time.
That's right.
Scared me half to death. Not uncommon. But I was thinking, how high can we put these locks on the door? Do you remember at one time I put the locks the very tippy top at the door with a whole bunch of bolts?
It's true. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, yes, toddlers are very, very capable. This is something that Maria Montessori knew and advocated for. But that means that the toddler period of life is also super frustrating for them. They see all these things that adults and big kids are doing, and they want to do them so badly. And in many cases, they either just barely can, even though they don't have permission to, or they want to, but they just get frustrated because they just don't have the dexterity, or they lose concentration halfway through the task. It's a very frustrating period of life. It's a very exciting period of life, but also frustrating. So what happens when your child gets frustrated? Most of us are familiar with the classic tantrum, but it expresses itself in other ways as well. The infamous no comes up.
No.
Yes. And also sometimes your child just might get extra clingy, or, kind of cling to you, not want to do anything, or they might become what seems like very antisocial with other people or new situations. Or they might just refuse. And some of the things they refuse to do are poop where they're supposed to poop. Same with urination. Or get themselves to sleep. Like, you can put the toddler to bed, but they often don't want to stay there.
Food.
And you can't make them sleep.
That's right.
And food too. You can put food in front of them, but you cannot make them eat. That is something that they can control. And those are all acts of resistance. And all they mean is, I am a person who wants more independence than I'm either being given or that I am capable of doing.
Now, of course, as a parent, this is a delightful experience that we enjoy at every turn.
We do. I mean, I enjoyed it. I really love toddlers so much. And I find that there are ways to enjoy it.
You are a saint.
No, there are ways to enjoy it It is embedded in the Montessori
That's true.
method. It really, really is.
Well, I want to say, though, that being frustrated is a human reaction and normal, but you're absolutely right. You
Totally.
can learn techniques
Yes.
to help you kind of find that calm when you get a little bit frustrated.
Well, Shweta actually has a lot of strategies that she shared with us
Yeah.
that she uses, and we are going to add some of our own. Some of the things that Shweta does to calm herself during those troubling toddler times is she does some yoga. She said she does yoga every morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if she still does, but that is a great strategy. If yoga is not your thing, it's not everybody's thing, then some kind of stretching, just stretching.
Are you ever doing Pilates in the morning?
Pilates is so great.
Or you might take a run or
a walk around the block if you can.
If you have a dog, take your dog on the walk.
Yes, or just go. I remember sometimes for us, I would just like go out into our patio and just like breathe the fresh air. something in the morning that involves a little bit of movement.
There is some actual physiological, and I don't remember the exact pieces here, but the sun literally does like blow away the sleepiness. So if you wake up and you're groggy and you can let sun come into your face, it literally changes your neurochemistry. So it's not just sort of like, oh, this is a good practice for you. It literally works based on how your body is designed.
It does.
And so, yeah, so go and get some exercise.
Yes. And if you can't get outside, just standing in front of your window, like opening your blinds, that also works.
Harder in the wintertime for our friends in the further in the north, but
they make lamps for
they
that.
They do make lamps for this. That's
right.
They
do. Okay. So it's a real thing. Think about it if that is something that you're struggling with, that grogginess in the morning. Gardening. Shweta also goes outside and makes time for gardening, which also has so many benefits. Just think about that communing with nature, being out in nature, being with your child in nature. That's also physiological and research-based. It's proven that when you go out and you don't even have to bathe in the forest, although that sounds lovely to me to go out and bathe in the forest every day. Some of you can, I know. If you can, then that's awesome. But those of you who can't, even just like tending some plants. So we have house plants around our room. We don't have a big garden outside, but we definitely have a lot of house plants. And just the act of caring for your plants or going over and just like looking at them and maybe doing a little dusting of them. You can take a leaf of the plant that's a little bit dusty. This is a Montessori activity, by the way. And you can take a little cloth and just wipe that dust off until that leaf is
polishing,
smooth and shiny. Yeah, a damp cloth with a little bit of water is all it takes. You don't need any oil or anything special. You want to get that dust off so that the plant is able to reach more sunlight. And it's a nice thing to do for your plant. And it's also a nice thing to do for yourself.
We were recently volunteering at the community garden because we don't have a garden at our house. It's pretty tough to grow because it's very sandy. This was once all dunes where we live. And so it's
so we'd have to bring in a lot of dirt.
We have to bring in a lot of topsoil.
We have to have a big.
So most people don't. They just have sort of a natural backyard
or a little square foot garden
or something like that, if they have a yard at all, right? So, but there are community gardens in a lot of places, and I'm thinking about how in Montessori we talk about practical life and sensorial, especially with the little ones. But as a grown adult, digging in we were doing weeding.
Yes.
The last time we went, and you're having to dig in the weeds and pull it out. It was, it was really hard, but it was sensorial in all ways. The smell, the feel. It was hard work. It was useful because these vegetables are eaten by members of the community. And it was, it really connected for me. It really gives you a sense of a connection to broader humankind. Where does your food come from? So all of those things were very peace filling.
They were, yeah. We felt good when we came out of that garden.
We did.
I always do when I go and participate in that community garden.
And your kids will too.
Tend any plants at all. Yeah, so that's what Shweta does. She also takes breaks. This is something that I know is really especially hard for stay-at-home parents who don't have a lot of other support. But when Shweta feels low, if she can, she goes out. She has a cup of coffee, just like go to your local coffee shop, have a cup of coffee, breathe. She talks to her mother, which is another great strategy. If you're really close to a family member, could be mom, could be sister, could be brother, could be uncle, anyone
Auntie,
that you are, auntie, anyone who you are close to, or just like reaching out, touching base with family. It's a really great strategy. I think we don't talk about nearly as often as we should. It's not usually mentioned in those positive discipline books.
It isn't.
Yeah.
The
but
generational support.
Reaching out to family is huge, even if they don't solve your problem. Just like reaching out, saying, I love you, mom. And if you're watching, I love you, mom. Mwah, mwah. And then she says, after she does those things, and the yoga, the gardening, taking some breaks, getting a cup of coffee, nurturing the self, talking to mom, then she feels like she's capable of continuing that journey, right? And Montessori, as we've kind of mentioned already, it's a big part of the journey. And fortunately, if we walk forward into the Montessori way of life and we really embrace it, we will find more peace, even if we're not specifically there for peace, even if we're there, to give our children an academically rich education.
Yeah, let's say you're doing that leaf polishing for the fine motor skill, right? You're like, oh, this is about fine motor skill. That's true. It's also, you're connecting to that natural object. You're creating like a peaceful mindset.
Yeah. So even if you are entering into Montessori because you can see that, I don't know, everybody else's shelves look gorgeous on Instagram, or because you've heard that Montessori will help your child learn to read and write, or do advanced math earlier, all of which is true. Even if you come from those little gateways, you will find yourself walking a more peaceful and calmer way of life. All right. And so here are some of those ways that David and I just brainstormed and talked about earlier this morning that we feel like the Montessori community needs a little more awareness of.
That's right. And I think we have 6 tips.
That's 6 tips.
All right. 6 tips.
So we're going to talk about how to find your calm through Montessori.
So the first one we thought about was respect for the child. Aubrey's mentioned this already, the terrible twos and that sort of idea. When we are aware that the child is an individual that's growing, that the tantrums and the, misbehavior that we see is actually an expression of psychological growth or need, and we begin to appreciate them, it can change our point of view about what's happening. So I think when we think of it as a tantrum or misbehavior, we tend to personalize it as you're not going to bed because you are mad at me, you're getting back at me, you're you're doing this to me. And that's just not the case. As Aubrey said, what's happening is the child is trying to express some level of autonomy in a world where they have very little otherwise. They have almost the capability, or maybe a little bit of the capability, and none of the rights. Basically, right? Yeah, you can't open the door and go wander out. You can't open the fridge and just eat whatever you want. There has to be some guidelines to help you navigate through this for safety or for nutrition, or just because you haven't learned yet. And that's a world of no faces a toddler. And when they have a little bit of an option, like you can't force them to eat, you can't force them to sleep, it can be very, very empowering. So if we respect, the Montessori method teaches us to respect what's happening to the child as a human going through a journey. And that can change the language from, oh, you're misbehaving, to you're learning. Doesn't mean it's going to be like peaches and cream. We can still get frustrated by it. But the mindset shift that we're talking about can help us then return to a moment of calm. We can get frustrated in the moment. Why won't you go to sleep? And then we can take a minute to think about what's really happening. And that can help us persevere through that and make better choices when dealing with the moment.
Yes. Now, this respect for the child is not unique to Montessori.
No, of course not.
Some resources to help you out, friends. Those of you who come from families where maybe you were spanked as a child or abused as a child, verbally, emotionally, physically, it may feel like a big hurdle to get to gentle parenting. So there are lots of resources out there for for you. The Positive Discipline series by Jane Nelson, excellent. All right. Also, there's a book called No Drama Discipline that's super popular. It talks about the neurological effects of embracing a gentle discipline approach. I wrote a book called Toddler Discipline for every age and stage. It will give you lots of Montessori strategies along with general parenting tips. And there's also Dr. Laura Markham's work is also brought up often. And that is, I think the book is Peace. I think it's like Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids, something like that. All right. So if this is a journey that you need to take on, I recommend like start with some book resources like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And friends, if you have a favorite book out there and you want to put that in the chat, we would love to read that out loud.
Yeah. Or if you've tried some of these strategies that we're going to go through and you have experiences you want to share, please pop them in the comments.
Yeah. All right. So, but there's more. Montessori is more than just gentle discipline. What else does it include?
Yeah. So, respect the child. Good. Another thing that you'll find innate to Montessori that fits to this calmness is the focus on intrinsic motivation, right? So intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the thing that wells up, that kind of guides you and fulfills you. Extrinsic motivations are outside factors that can sort of temporarily motivate you. So they can range from spankings to a pay raise to a cookie. So brief break. I'm a big fan of The Incredibles, the movie, and others. And in The Incredibles sequel, The Incredibles 2, there is a hilarious sequence where the dad keeps giving the baby, Jack, a cookie. And take the cookie and you'll behave. He gives him the cookie and he behaves. And then he doesn't give him the cookie. The baby acts out. Jack acts out.
Right.
And it's hilarious because Jack can tort himself into all these different special abilities that are representative of the things that children in his age group do. The defiance and the Houdini, like, slipping out of the nursery or whatever. It's a great scene, right?
It is. All these classic toddler toddler gifts are represented as superpowers.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's great.
So the cookie works a little bit, but he just has to continually. So there's a scene where he's very exhausted. He's sitting on the couch and Jack turns into fire or something, gives him a cookie, and he goes back to non-fire form. And eventually he takes it to Edna, who's one of the other people in the movie. And she's like, this cookie idea was a terrible idea. No more cookies.
Right.
It's a really, really funny scene. It's a great part of the movie, and it speaks specifically to this idea of extrinsic motivation. When we focus only on extrinsic motivation, when we placate with a cookie or with a treat or with punishment of some type, if you don't do this, you're going to get a spanking. I'm going to wash your mouth out with soap, whatever. Those are all extrinsic motivations. They will, in the short term, cause some change of behavior, but as the movie shows, it doesn't last. Montessori is implicitly focused on building an intrinsic motivation by looking at what the child is interested in and then fostering that. And intrinsic motivations work and last. They're harder, but once you build them, they will last forever. And so to find calm and not be constantly in that, oh, he's on fire, here's a cookie, now he turned into a stone, now he's a cookie, Mr. Incredible problem. By focusing on the intrinsic motivation within and helping the child build that, you in turn will create a more peaceful environment and a child who's going to have a more fulfilling life.
Agreed. Yeah, I love that analogy. Thank you for bringing.
Of course, anytime we can talk about The Incredibles.
We can work in some kind of Pixar or Disney movie into our conversation.
So those are two that I thought of. What's something on your list?
All right. So on my list is in Montessori, we really work towards emotional co-regulation strategies. This is another part of gentle discipline, but it's also kind of embedded into the Montessori approach. So Maria Montessori herself, she said that when children act out, we should treat them like they're sick. So instead of getting them in trouble, we should, what do you do with a sick child? You take them away, you comfort them, you give them love, you tend them, you nourish them, and then they come back out to join their friends, so that's the general strategy. A child that's completely out of control and is just, really hurting others or is tantruming in the moment, we want to keep them in a situation where they're not going to hurt other people or themselves. So we've got to like kind of, I don't want to say isolate in a negative way, but like we got to like shield them and protect them and protect other people. But also there are all these wonderful things that we can do to co-regulate with them by giving them a hug. You know what happens when you give a child a hug? You feel so much better. Right? And your child also might feel so much better too. If they want a hug, then certainly lean into that. If they don't want one, don't worry about it. But I will tell you that anytime I'm feeling sad or stressed and my child comes over and gives me a hug, oh my gosh. I mean, you can give me a hug and I feel good too. But when one of our kids gives me a hug, it's a different kind of calmness.
Absolutely.
Right. So
not all hugs are equal.
No,
I think it's the lesson.
I know. I love you. We empathize with them. You know, they are frustrated about something, and we want to let them know that we see that frustration and we also feel it with them, and that really helps. Empathizing with somebody also always makes you feel calmer and more peaceful and more loving yourself. Breathing deeply. I have seen some beautiful videos demonstrating this of children who are tantruming and they just like curl up with their parents and then you just like breathe together. And when you're breathing and, you know, their little head is on your chest and like you're breathing together, you get into sync again.
Yeah.
Right. And it makes you feel more peaceful. And yeah, so in Montessori, these are not things that maybe teachers always can do in the same way in the classroom. You know, obviously teachers in a classroom can't act like a parent can, but if you are a Montessori parent, these are the strategies you should be using
I
with
love
your
that.
own child.
If your child had the flu, you wouldn't say how naughty.
You wouldn't say, go to your bed.
Well, you might say, go to your bed because we want you to get some rest. Right.
Yeah.
But you would give them chicken soup and love and right. And so
but more likely you would probably be like, come on, sweetie,
right.
let's go back to your bed.
Exactly. So when we see in our culture, we often, I think, still don't think of emotional or mental instability or issues, whether momentary or not, as health issues, whether momentary or not, but they are. Right. So a feeling of sadness or anger or depression, however long or short it might be, is no less of an illness than having the flu. And so this idea of co-regulation speaks to that idea. Like people in distress, whatever the distress is, deserve our compassion.
That's right. That is Montessori. Another thing that is really pretty cool. I mean, these gentle parenting techniques are talked about a lot online. There's so many resources for them. But I think what's talked about less often is that the Montessori lesson techniques themselves, they actually do train us to slow down and to calm down. And this is like, if you think about the way you might give a lesson to the child, what are we told to do as Montessorians? We're told to not talk as much as possible, like use very few words. We're told to show, not tell, to use our hands to demonstrate and to slow the movements down so that we are really illuminating very clearly what the steps are in the presentations. And this helped, like, I have not seen any studies about this, but I would bet that if you have a teacher who's like kind of frenetic, trying to get the kids in from the playground, and then she or he comes in and gives a slow presentation, I bet there's a correlation to like a biological heart slowing down, calmness, probably, you know, some good endorphins like rushing in. I would bet you anything. And there, to my knowledge, there has been no studies on the psychological effect of Montessori impacts on adults, you know, while like the guides themselves. But I would just bet anything that is what you're going to see. And some examples of that, if you think about the classic Pink Tower presentation. If you've never actually seen a Pink Tower presentation, you can look that up online. It is slow, friends. It's really hard to watch a Pink Tower presentation on YouTube because it lasts forever. I always find myself like I start watching and then I'm like, oh, I got to skip forward. Like, because first we're taking the biggest block and we're taking it slowly down to the rug and then we're coming back for, or the smallest first and then the next smallest. And it's just like so slow. There's so much movement, but it's very slow. And it's almost like walking meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's right.
so
That's a good one.
well, so if you go online and you'll see this, a classic Pink Tower presentation might take like 10 minutes from start to end.
Yeah, and we're talking 10 cubes and somehow
it takes like 10 minutes. I mean, it is a long time. And by giving a lesson like that, you are you have to slow yourself down. You have to be in control of your body, and that calms you down. So even if you're just a parent at home and you practice giving some of these lessons, even without the children around, then that is like helping you to embody the Montessori philosophy and to be a calmer parent. It's just going to help you. Totally. It's just going to work. Yeah. So practical life, great example would be like pouring without spilling, so pouring very, very slowly. Yeah. Controlled movements, taking that little sponge and wiping up that little tiny spill. Or if it's a big spill, getting that rag. And what are you going to do? You're going to get it and just like wipe it up like this? No. As a Montessorian, you're going to grab that rag. You're going to very intentionally take it to the wet spot. And you're going to slowly sop that thing up. It's just part of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also thinking about step-by-step procedures. And the first thing that came to my mind was table scrubbing.
Table scrubbing. Yeah. Now that is in our practical life area. It is a practical life, not just ours. But we would consider it a component of practical life. So I grabbed our Practical Life Lessons and Activities book. This is part of the primary curriculum. Yep. And I thought I would read through that.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a classic activity in the practical life area. Mm-hmm. Okay. So first, set out all materials needed on a mat or bath towel. Mm-hmm. Fill a pitcher halfway or to a fill line with water.
Okay.
Pour the water into the center of a large bowl.
We've got 3 sequence steps already.
Dry the pitcher.
4.
Wet a scrub brush in the water and shake once firmly to release the extra water.
5.
Or 6 even.
Releasing. Mm-hmm.
Pick up a bar of soap and slide the bristles of the brush over it.
7.
Scrub the table using a circular motion beginning on the left and working toward the right. Okay. Emphasis on the sequence.
Right.
Rinse the scrub brush in the bowl of water. Wet a sponge in the bowl. Squeeze it. Wipe across the table from left to right. Rinse the sponge as needed. Mm-hmm. Pour the dirty water out into a bucket and take the bucket to the sink. Pour the dirty water out using a drying cloth to catch or wipe up any spills. Repeat the activity again, but this time do not use soap. Mm-hmm. After pouring out the second bucket of water, begin drying all items used with a drying cloth one by one. When finished, put all of the cleaning materials back where they belong. Now, we didn't write the number of steps that are here.
That's a lot of steps.
But it's probably 30 steps.
Yeah.
And doubled.
That is a big work. What level is that in our practical life?
We would say that's level 3.
It's a level 3 work. So this would be after your child has gained the skills already and practiced filling something up to a fill line, has practiced squeezing things out with a sponge, has practiced probably scrubbing something more simple that has fewer steps to it. And if you as the lesson giver are going through this entire sequence yourself, your heart rate's going to be super slow by the time you get to the end. Right. So maybe table scrubbing is something that we should do if we're feeling emotional or angry.
Maybe
right?
So, yeah.
I don't know if any of you have ever started to clean your house when like you feel emotional or I don't know if you do this, but I definitely do.
I clean out the fridge by eating the food, but
well, it is a technique that one might want to think about trying.
No, it's true. And to go back to the earlier point, so this is a classic and practical life lesson. Mm-hmm. It uses a lot of practical life skills, the pouring and the scrubbing and the drying and so forth. And yet it's also broadly about peace, because implicit to it is a meditative process, the procedure that you follow. First you do this you do, then you do this. And that's an example of how the lesson steps, the step-by-step approach of Montessori embodies a peaceful mindset.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the next one on my list is observation. I see a comment on there. Yes, I clean when I'm angry. Yeah. For a good reason. keep doing it.
It's a win-win.
But slowly and methodically.
Right?
Right.
No angry cleaning.
Well, I mean, I think you can start angry, and then by the time you end, you're more peaceful. I do. You should try it sometime.
Okay.
So observation is next on my list. In Montessori, we promote observing a child before you give any lessons to the child. So probably should have put this one before giving the lesson in sequence. But observation is very akin to a mindful meditation practice that is helpful to us, and it gives us insights about what our children need. It has been proven to reduce anxiety and depression. It lowers blood pressure. It improves your sleep. And it's just generally great for our well-being. All right. So mindful meditation, observation, they're totally in sync. And in our primary course, this is exactly where we begin. So those of you who are joining the primary course for the fall group coaching semester, that is where we're going to start with our rhythm and routine section. And we'll start by exploring the art of observation. Yep. So I'm going to give you a technique that you can do right now that I was thinking about just before we went live, thinking something actionable for today.
Okay.
So let's practice as we breathe in. We're practicing. There's a vision that you are like watching your child, you're gazing at your child, they're doing some kind of work. Maybe it's playing with Legos. Maybe it is doing some kind of beautiful Montessori activity. I don't know. Okay. But you're watching your child. Maybe they're just playing on the playground. You breathe in, and you're watching your child, you get curious about what they're doing. And then you breathe out and you just appreciate what they're doing. Okay. So we get curious as we breathe in, and we appreciate when we breathe out. Right. And I would love it if you try that technique yourself for just like 3 minutes. All right. Email us hello@childoftheredwoods.com and let us know how it goes for you, and see if that helps you to find your calm, because that is really how we observe as Montessorians. We've got both curiosity and appreciation going at the same time.
I love that.
Yeah.
Curious about what they're doing, but with the appreciation pieces to a reminder not to intervene and correct.
Yes. And it invokes gratitude. Yeah. All right. I think this is our last tip for you.
We have, of course, the peace curriculum.
Of course.
Is tip number 5. This is a very direct one. You know, some of the others are more implicit to how the method works, but Montessori is fairly famous for its peace orientation on peace and peace curriculum. And you'll find it throughout. So, for example, in primary, you'll find it in practical life with the peace table itself. So decorating the peace table, using the peace table. And the peace table is basically a spot you go to mediate issues, right? In primary, we also focus on things in our humankind area, what we would consider humankind, peacemakers, people in the world who are peacemakers, and the universal rights of children. So these are topics that you would explore with those latter ones, probably with the kindergarten, pre-kindergarten set. For those in the lower L, in humankind, you'll find the fundamental needs. Montessori identified 13 fundamental needs that all humans require. And
it's a really fun lesson.
It's a beautiful lesson. It's not as well known as it should be. Yeah. Her fundamental needs is just brilliant.
It is.
And she includes in them communication, so talking with oneself and the other way, spirituality and religion, philosophy, social acceptance and support, and love. And all of these are either ways we express or achieve peace internally or with others.
We don't usually think of something like social acceptance as a fundamental need.
We don't.
I mean, it's not usually listed in the, in the needs
or
list
philosophy,
there, or philosophy, but it definitely is.
Yeah, that's why they're so brilliant, because they're really all encompassing. And another area that you will find peace education for the lower L. that is the kids is like 6 and plus, is a focus on environmentalism and life science.
That's right.
So looking at human interaction and what that means to the ecosystem and how humans and animals coexist and how humans use animals, and thinking about that in terms of a harmonious relationship. And so kind of taking it to a bigger picture and a relationship of peace, not just keeping the peace in your home, but peace in terms of balance.
Right.
And then the sixth tip that we had, no, that was the sixth tip, wasn't it? Wait, hold on.
Let's go back and count again. Okay, so we've got
respect the child, intrinsic motivation, co-regulation, lesson giving, observation,
and peace.
All right.
Peace curriculum.
Apparently, good thing this is not a one on math. So anyway, so 6, that's the 6 we came up with. If you think of any others, leave them in the comments. We'd love to know what you think about it. And if you're curious to know more about how peace education works, Maria wrote a lot of great books about this particularly. You're also welcome to head over to our website. We have a bunch of different resources on that, including our courses, which involve tying peace and social emotional learning throughout the curriculum.
Yes.
Okay. So ready to wrap?
Yes, okay. Let's do. So thank you guys all for being here. If the Montessori method is calling to you, come please reach out to us. Our website is childoftheredwoods.com. We offer both free and low cost support, and you can get our free list of essentials.
Montessori essentials at childoftheredwoods.com/essentials.
/essentials.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you have questions or feedback, we'd love to hear. Just head over to our website. You can hit the contact form. You can just email us at hello@childoftheredwoods.com. You can leave a comment on this video, or you can reach us via Instagram. Whatever. We're happy. We like to chat. We're going to be back in a week.
Yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday at 1:00 p.m. Pacific time.
And we're going to do the essentials, I think.
Yes, it is the essentials. We are talking about grammar, and we're going to talk about the farm, which a lot of you may have at home anyway, because it's just a fun child's toy. But guess what? You can use it for grammar too.
That's right. There's a reason it's an essential.
We're going to talk about that.
That's right.
And I want to say thank you, Marika, for your sweet comment. She said, I just finished reading your book. I loved it. The fact that it is divided by age, and it's very easy to read. Mwah! Thank you so much.
Everybody have a great week out there.
Take care.